Firstly, to everyone that's joining us live, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join James and I on this webinar. James and I have had a few discussions on this topic, and I can tell you how passionate James is about this topic. So I'm very, very excited to jump into this with you today, James. But mate, for those that perhaps have been living under a rock and don't know who you are, mate, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Reece. For people who don't know me, James Davis, I'm Chief Strategy Officer of the TSP Advisory, and my day job is directly working with the leading partners in APAC to help them transform to meet the modern client needs of the future. And I share all my insights from my unique position of working in the industry and building an ecosystem and getting to talk with people like Reece, the partners and other vendors, and try and bring a holistic view to help partners make decisions for the future. So I'm excited to jump in today, Reece, and hopefully I can help some partners change their mindsets and approaches.
Yeah, certainly. And mate, this topic is certainly close to my heart, of course, being in the cybersecurity game, so to speak, and trying to help partners, elevate their cyber resilience and deliver real outcomes to their customers. So I'm very excited to jump into this topic, mate. So the title of the webinar and the presentation, mate, is cybersecurity isn't a bolt-on, transforming your approach as a technology solutions partner. Now, you and I have had a number of discussions on this topic. We're both pretty passionate about it. I think yourself, James, particularly so. Mate, can you talk kind of, before we jump straight into it, talk us or give us a bit of background as to where that passion for this particular topic comes from?
I'm on a mission to elevate the industry and help partners deliver better outcomes to their clients and get better outcomes for themselves and their leaders. And cybersecurity is a key component. But I actually hate cybersecurity. It's too detailed, it's too technical. The conversations that we're having is so repetitive that I'm bored of it. And I want to see us elevate. Cybersecurity is key, and we need to mitigate a lot of risks for our clients, but it's not the be all and end all, like what's being said. So during this session today, what I really want to talk about is how to think about cybersecurity differently to get better results, because most partners are really struggling to get traction in cybersecurity for different reasons. And hopefully I can break this down between the way that we understand our clients and position cybersecurity and how we can operationalize it better in our business, and then how we can actually monetize cybersecurity in a much better way so that we can actually sell it, but also be profitable, because most partners aren't at the moment.
Mate, look, there are, as you kind of alluded to, there are so many components, controls, frameworks, ways to monetize, productize around cybersecurity that it is a complex area. So, mate, looking forward to hopefully you providing a bit of simplification for partners around those topics today. So, mate, let's jump straight into it.
Where I really want to set the scene to kick off is, for many years now, we're probably talking 5-6 years at least, if not longer, there's been this drive, this vendor agenda of cybersecurity is important. This is how we're going to make our money. This is what's going to drive our futures. And while it's really important for us to do cybersecurity, the majority of us aren't getting that traction. We're not seeing the reality of cybersecurity really driving our businesses. There are companies, whether they're specialists or whether they're more modern TSPs, that have leveraged cybersecurity for growth, but the average partner out there hasn't had much traction on this. And so I want to explain why. The main reason is because cybersecurity is only a component of what we do. And when we look into the future of what's important, and what are the big bets in technology, what vendors are driving towards, what clients are needing, it's only one component. And so when we hyper focus on it from a MSP perspective, we're actually cutting out a whole lot of other segments that we need to deliver value to our client. if we're already a specialist of cybersecurity, that's the only world we live in. And as most of those cyber specialists are coming down from the mid-market enterprise government space into growth in the SMB space, they don't realize that holistic part that cybersecurity has to play. And this is where we started off wrong. And this is why when we've been treating it as a bolt-on, we've been missing the mark. And there's a lot that we're doing wrong, and I'll leave this up for a little bit, because most of us are MSPs in this space. We've come from a traditional break-fix mentality where we've been that white in shining armor to resolve issues for our clients. We evolved into a managed service provider where most of us only stopped at fixed pricing, support, and management. We've never really got into true proactivity and continual improvement that an MSP should. We're still coming from that approach of break fix, and that's driven a lot of our behaviors and how we've gotten into cybersecurity. We've treated it as a problem to solve once off, a static approach like how we've done with our traditional managed services. But cybersecurity is a continually evolving space. There's multiple moving parts. There's a reason why it's its own speciality in the whole overall technology space. So we've never properly understood what we need to deliver and how we need to deliver it and how we engage clients off it. And so that has driven a whole bunch of activity that we've done, and it's affecting us in quite a few ways. Like most partners have spent the last 2 to 3 years trying to come up with these cyber packages like we deliver our managed services, but we haven't seen growth. We spent a lot of time on it without that progress. The people that have implemented it have often implemented it and have really poor margins. It's something like 65 to 70% of the industry is operating at less than 40% margins on our cyber services. That's really dramatic. That shows how poorly that we're doing it. We've increased our risk because we haven't understood what we're taking on. We haven't rolled out new modern contracts with what we're doing. We haven't educated the client well enough because we don't understand. We've created a whole bunch of delivery efficiencies, and we're wasting time everywhere. And while we're doing this as well, we're seeing client churn. I'm seeing more client churn than I ever have in the industry, and that's driven by things in our control and out of control. And the thing in our control that most partners might not understand that they're actually being impacted by is that we're not delivering at a high enough maturity. Our clients are outgrowing our maturity levels and they're moving on to other partners. And I can say this with authority because I get to see the whole market. Most partners are talking about they're losing clients, they're not generating leads, they're not really growing, they're being static. And they assume everyone's like that. But there are partners out there that are really winning in this space. The haves and have-nots are really segmenting. The gap between that is getting bigger and bigger because we're wasting all this time on the wrong things. And so when we step back, and I want to give you a frame of reference for the rest of this sort of conversation. Going back to that break fix mindset. It's not just the break fix mindset, it's the mindset of how ICT environments in our clients were and what they've changed to. I'm seeing so many partners still thinking it's 2010 or prior. We're still thinking about things like everything's in an office, everything's on prem. We're putting everything behind a firewall. It's all physical infrastructure, and that's affecting how we're approaching our solutions. And and a lot of us are missing the mark because of that thought process. It's not just also the technology; it's also the skills and how we apply it as well. I'm actually quite scared of how many level 3s in the industry don't take into account cyber practices. They leave ports open to the world. They don't do network segmentation because it's too much work. They disagree with MFA, all the baseline fundamental things that we should be doing. There's so many people out there in the industry that resist that because it diminishes our functionality. It makes it harder to do our work, all of these sort of excuses. But what we're doing is either not mitigating the risks the clients have, or we're actually creating new ones because of those practices. And that's extremely dangerous. And so as we think about our mindset in the way that technology was, where we've come from, this is what's feeding our way that we do cybersecurity. You see on the screen the way that we packaged up. I alluded to this earlier. Back in the day when we converted from time and materials to recurring managed services, most of us, all we did was we were charging a client on average X dollars per month. We'll chuck on 20, 30% contingency, and there's our managed services. Not many of us actually broke that down into deliverables, understanding what we need to do, what the outcomes are. And we're still taking that approach in how we've been packaging cybersecurity as well. We've gone, maybe we need to align to Essential 8. Here's some products. Let's put some markup on that. Let's take a guess at what price we should deliver, and we'll just put it in a good, better, best model. We will have some tiers to it, and then we'll be done, and we'll just go sell it. Either that hasn't been resonating with clients because it's not baked in, and we're not understanding the outcomes we're delivering, or the clients don't know what decisions they should be making, and our sales team and us in general don't know what the client should be doing. So we're not being successful, let alone the fact if we do end up selling it, it's quite clear with the statistics that we're not profitable. So we're doing a lot of things wrong because we're coming from the wrong perspective. And that feeds into the way that we're looking at products. The way that we're deciding cybersecurity is basically going, here's a tool. How do I sell that tool into the client? We don't have a perspective on what risks are we trying to mitigate? What frameworks do we need to align to? And then what are the best solutions to wrap around it? We get caught up in what's the best shiny tool at any one time. We keep asking the wider partner network around what have you got in your stack, and copying what other people are doing. And that's causing issue after issue after issue, and it's the wrong approach. And when you start to step back, like we'll do in this slide, I'm telling you all what's wrong. I'll start to help you understand what to do, what we can actually do about next. But awareness is the first step of the problem. And the first bit that I want to get you to start thinking about is back to technology, what everyone's comfortable in, what everyone specializes in, the reason why we do what we do. It's the shiny side of our business that we enjoy. This is what a modern SMB client environment looks like. It's very different to our traditional ones that we're used to with the old SBS servers and the firewalls. All of a sudden, we're not in single offices. We work from anywhere. And that's not just the people working on endpoints. That's also the operational technology of our clients' businesses. Their work sites and stuff are changing. The way manufacturers undertake their work is different. How healthcare functions is different. And the technology fits that space. So not only is everything becoming more complex and disjointed, there's more moving parts inside that we need to understand our view and reshape the way that we provide solutions and provide advice. And this was a lot that I've just gone bang, bang, bang at you. Reece, slow me down. Like, what's your thoughts?
Mate, I'm aligned, and I think I know where you're getting at here. It sounds like there's still a lot of partners out there that are building their security stack based on just the products that are out there, the sort of vendor ecosystem, if you will, without really thinking about potentially the risk that's being mitigated or the why behind it, and perhaps even further. There's kind of less focus on the people and the process piece, and it's more just technology. Would that be a fair sort of summary of what you're seeing?
That's a way better summary. Should have got you to come up and present. It's it is. We're focused. We've gone too tactical, too into the tools, too into the weeds, too fast, instead of stepping back and really understanding what's going on, and developing a strategy around that. And what I'm going to actually do now, I'm going to help everyone actually start to think about this in a different way. I promise I'm not going to keep berating you about what we're doing wrong. I'm going to bring some solutions. And
That
so,
self, that awareness piece is critical, though, James. So we need to know what we're doing wrong.
it, and to be fair, as I dive into this section, there hasn't been great education for us as partners. There's been people out there that have tried to cut through the noise, but we've been bombarded with vendor agenda, buy the tools, buy this, buy that. We haven't had this operational, this strategic conversation as an industry. So this is that chance to reshape it as we go. And the place to start to reshape is we need to start with the people side. As you highlighted, Reece, we're not thinking about the people and process in the people process technology. And the people, when I talk about people, what I'm really talking about is our clients as a whole. We've got different clients, different types, and very few of us start to break down and understand who we actually work with. And I'm going to give you some tips and thought process so you can break this down. We can start with segments. Like, are we working with small and micro businesses? Are we working with medium? Are we working up into the mid-market government enterprise space? The majority of us work in the SMB space, maybe up to the bottom of the mid-market. That's what a typical partner does. Understanding them from that perspective starts to allow us to understand what we need to do to help them. And as you can see in this infographic, we know this by nature. Most of our clients don't have internal IT resources. They almost definitely don't have internal cyber resources. So they're needing some form of expertise. That's a starting point. And we need to meet them from that starting point. They're business people, and they want to understand from a business perspective how we can help them. Where we go straight to IT. We go straight to that technical operational level. We don't meet our clients at the strategic level. So how do we do that when we're not used to doing that? Well, we go to the next step. What industry vertical are they in? Because we can then start understanding the types of businesses, how they operate. How a professional services firm operates very differently to healthcare, to mining and agriculture, to retail, hospitality. There's nuances in that. We need to understand how they operate, how they make money, what are their key roles and responsibilities, regulation. All of a sudden, we start to get a lot more specific. We can start to understand what challenges they have, what opportunities they've got, and start tailoring solutions to that, rather than being a generic, I've got a stack, and trying to force our clients into it. And if you take it one step further and break it down into the different high-level roles in their organization, as a whole, there's a business strategy, but what that means to each individual department will change significantly. And what the CEO cares about is different to the CFO compared to the COO. When we're talking cybersecurity, going and talking to chief people officer about cybersecurity, they're not going to care. Even a COO often doesn't care about cybersecurity. They care when something goes wrong because it impacts their operations. But all they will see is a cost. Where if you go talk to a CFO, their whole job is about managing risk for the business. They need to understand that in the solutions. A CEO is driven by the board and shareholders to protect and grow revenue. They've got responsibilities. The board these days in Australia have directors' liabilities around the way that they approach things. So if you start to understand these different roles and can have different conversations around the business, understand their challenges, all of a sudden you can start positioning those solutions that you created off the back of understanding their particular verticals. We start to build traction. We're meeting them at where they're at, and we're starting to be a lot more strategic in the way that we're engaging rather than diving straight into the technology. The only ones on this this infographic that actually care about technology are the CIOs, CTOs, and CISOs. But as we alluded to earlier, we're traditionally working in the SMB medium business market. They won't have these roles. So why do we default to having that conversation? If they did, those roles request from us what they need. Those people often understand what they need from their business because they're doing what we're doing. And so we need to flip the way that we engage with our clients. When you take a step back, start thinking about a business and those roles, these are the common challenges that they're facing. Like nearly every business, especially in this region, are facing all of these challenges in a different way. And we need to frame up our conversations around that. And you can do that quite easily when we basically boil it down to what all organizations care about. They care about growth and revenue. They care about profit and the risk, business risks that they have. They don't care about the technical risks. They care about business risks. And that's where we've been going wrong in cybersecurity. Again, we're defaulting to the technology. We're not understanding how to position cybersecurity. We're positioning it as we need to mitigate these technical risks. We have email security because we stop phishing. Great. But what actually is phishing? The business risk is actually financial fraud. It's lost income. It's loss of operations. It's not what we see and how we typically articulate it. It's if we can bring that back and start positioning by understanding the client and meeting them where they're at, all of a sudden the traction starts building. But also it helps us actually build the right solutions. And so when we understand growth, profit, risk of our clients, we can start having risk-based conversations. We can frame it in a well-defined mechanism. Every mature business operates with basically the ISO risk standards and leverages matrices like this. What's the likelihood of something happening and what's the consequences of something happening? We always, again, default to the technology side, straight to the tech. The consequence is we can't use email or we lose access to our files. That's not the real business consequence. The business consequences are impacting reputation, financial loss, operational delays, inability to sell, to provide a tender on time. It's things like that that actually impact the business. And so we need to change the way that we talk. And as I start to wrap this one up, and I'll get Reece to slow me down again, we need to understand with curiosity. We need to start asking more questions to bring these things up to the surface so our clients can buy into the conversations and we provide value. We assume way too much, and most of us are assuming the wrong things and are talking about the wrong things. That's not deliberate. That's just the way that we operate and we don't have the awareness. So while people are reading these, Reece, what did you take away from that?
I look, I'm sure every partner listening and watching this, James, has been in this scenario where they've gone into, perhaps a board of directors and they've started talking technical controls and they've seen the director's eyes glaze over because they have no idea what they're talking about. And there's that realization that actually, what I'm talking about, he's not hitting home, it's not landing. How does one get better at, you know, moving away from focusing on technical controls to focusing on the business, risk or outcomes that actual business cares about?
So that's a great question. And I think I'd come back to what's up on the screen. We need to understand with curiosity. We need to start asking more questions. It's very easy to become an authority and expert once we actually know what's going on. We need to ask them about how they operate. We need to ask them about what do they know about their regulations, and then go investigate. And then we need to come back and tie it to those. Are we talking about growth and revenue, profit and efficiency, or mitigating risk? and frame it up at that level around the business. It's very easy to get someone excited and engaged when you take an approach of bringing something to light of a risk that they didn't understand that could severely impact their revenue growth or their profit in a different way. When you do that, instead of diving to, oh, we need to bring in email security and security awareness training, no one cares. They care about what is preventing them to make money and grow their business. And if you just bring it down to that and ask more questions around that and be more curious, you'll solve so many problems, and you'll find yourself just elevating because you're having those conversations all the time. And the more that you hear from people, the more you can build a story around it and give people answers back. To start with, you have to be comfortable with you don't know the answers, but asking a question is still valuable, even if you can't solve it.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to just continuously have those conversations with our customers, James, to feel more comfortable having them, rather than defaulting to what we feel comfortable with, which is technical controls, technology. It's, we need to be speaking their language, is what I'm getting there.
100%. We need to meet the client where they're at, and we're going to be uncomfortable. And this is a great lead into, we need to transform our approach. And how do we do that? There's a few different ways. I've spoken around where we've come from, our reactive break fix mindset to we need to transform it. And what we need to start doing is thinking about security as a default. And what I mean by that is we keep treating it as a bolt-on. Funnily enough, this is the topic of the webinar. We keep adding products to something. We'll sell a client something. We've sold them a managed service. Now we're trying to sell them cybersecurity on top. Why don't we give people security by default? Why don't we do it when we're delivering a project? We're doing a network upgrade. We default to, we'll just replace the same hardware that we've given them. We won't make a whole lot of changes. We'll provide it at a cost-effective rate and we'll move on. Well, actually, at the moment, the opportunity is to uplift our approach, wherever that might be. Maybe we need to roll out SASE as an example, because all of a sudden they're working from anywhere. There's remote things. They've got things on the cloud. They've got hybrid infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. Well, all of a sudden that lifts the security posture immediately. Or maybe if that's not appropriate, when we do roll out our network uplift, why don't we roll out network segmentation with that? Why don't we tidy up some firewall rules and make sure that we've got MFA turned on for administrative access to the firewalls and other network devices? That is a secure by default approach. And clients don't blink at that. They just assume this is the price, we need to get it done. And you can weave into that story, not only are we replacing the hardware and better functionality, we've improved your security posture by doing that. And that applies to services as well. We're doing managed services. Why are we bolting on really low-level baseline stuff at extra cost? Our support needs should be reducing if we're doing the right thing. We already need to change our the way that we provide value to the client. Why don't we just add some additional cybersecurity baseline stuff by default? Why don't we just turn off the Office macros? Why don't we just implement better patch management regimes and widen that to the network devices? Why don't we just do M36 hardening by default? Those kinds of things are just bringing it into being baked into what we do. From there, we also need to think about the approach of how we enable our clients to be better educated to undertake their own cybersecurity practices. And why don't we, when we're looking at our tool sets, why don't we look for the things that are more secure by default as well? So there's lots of decisions there that we don't need to go create all these new fancy packages and go the whole shiny cybersecurity wing. We can just have cyber first solutions. It's often as simple as that. And as we start to develop that mindset, what we need to do is mature as well. And what you're seeing up on the screen at the moment is the 6 stages of TSP maturity. Most of us in the industry are stage 0, 1, and 2 in our whole businesses. This maturity stages apply to departmental functional levels and whole of business. Most of us are stage 0, 1, and 2 for our entire businesses. In cybersecurity, especially, most of us are 0 and 1. Practices that I see in general are quite low. Again, back to our break fix mindset, we never had to worry about cybersecurity in the SMB space. We just rolled out what we did. There wasn't really that much attacks. We could roll out an AV and we were good. We put a firewall in place. Most of the risk was gone. Times have changed. We haven't matured our approaches. And what I mean by that is most of us don't align to any kind of framework. We've got no frame of reference. We try and reinvent the wheel where there's actually well-trodden ways to implement cyber practices and technical controls of policy and governance. We don't need to reinvent that. And a lot of partners have come up to speed with that, but they're struggling to decide on which framework is the right one for them. And I won't go into each of these, but my recommendation for the average small business and medium partner is the SMB 1001 technical standard and ISO 27001. With both of those, you've got a compliance journey to go on. You've got clear technical controls to enable for your own business and your clients. And they're both certifiable. So you can work up towards being audited. Someone else has looked over your work. And by embracing both of these, you've got a frame of reference of how to sell to your clients in terms of packaging up towards the certification levels, but also that compliance journey. If you're going on it yourself, you'll be able to talk with authority to your clients, and that provides that really high level advice, which is critical. That's what clients need.
And James, just if you go back there, just to touch on those certifiable frameworks. Jeff had a question in the chat around, security is often seen as a cost center or a disabler, and asked, or do we have any thoughts on how we start positioning security as an enabler or competitive advantage? And it seems to me, would love to get your thoughts, but it seems to me that, as an SMB or mid-market organization, if you can certify yourself against these frameworks, put it up on your website, particularly as security becomes more and more focused on, throughout the supply chain, organizations that are going for work, going for tenders with these certified alignment to frameworks, surely would have a competitive advantage, mate. Well, I mean, what would your thoughts on that be?
My default answer is it's a cost center because we end up treating it like that. So when you bake a lot of this stuff in the first place to your solutions, well, it's maybe slightly an additional cost, but you're already reducing their risk to the stuff that they need to do anyway. That's one way to start removing that that segmentation. What you just highlighted then around the supply chains, there is more and more sort of requirements in different supply chains where people need to meet the standards. So we can talk to that about it as an enabler to getting into new markets and new segments to grow the business. It's a revenue enabler. There's enablement and cost savings when we do this kind of activity from an insurance perspective. We're meeting these certifiable standards. Those insurance premiums come down because they've been audited. We've been certified on it. We get to do things differently. It's also coming back to that risk-based approach. If we can understand their business risk and then reframe the conversation around what is the impact to your profit and your revenue on certain things happening, and using the consequences and likelihood matrix, all of a sudden we can start to quantify that as a quantifiable action to take, that if we don't take this, it's likely to happen, and this is how much it will cost us. I don't have it in this, but a number as I start to talk about this, the average SMB major incident from a major cyber incident impact on a SMB client averages out to be $49,600 for that SMB client. There's a cost that's been shown across tens of hundreds of thousands of incidents across Australia. Right there's a cost of their recovery. So when you can start bringing it back and put money to it, put reputational damage to it, and then show other ways that will help them generate revenue or save them money, it becomes a lot different conversation. And we can only do this when we understand it. That's the problem for us. Most of us aren't doing day-to-day cyber practices in our own business. I'm going to call it out. The amount of MSPs that do not have MFA on their RMMs and other key infrastructure, that don't have security awareness training, that have like level ones checking suspicious emails. The list goes on. We don't even do it for our own businesses, and we're one of the biggest risk vectors for our clients. So how can we expect to lift their standards? We need to start with our own house in mind. And we need to embed, again, cyber practices by default. I can tell you what's going to happen, especially with AI coming. The amount of social engineering that's going to hit help desks is just going to dramatically rise. We saw a couple of years ago the MGM attack was all from social engineering on the help desk. Easiest way to get the keys to the castle to clients isn't going to be directly the clients themselves. It's going to be the MSPs. And we need to start being a lot better at that. You probably don't hear as many near misses or major incidents that happen with MSPs because everyone's too afraid to share them until they move on from their business. I can tell you it's happening weekly. I talk to ANZ partners and they've either had really lucky near misses of attacks that have happened, or they've had major incidents that have impacted them, all because they don't do the basic fundamentals. So how can we deliver it to our own clients? And once we start doing that, once we get past that immaturity and we start building it out, we need to be efficient in the way that we deliver it. These are the top 8 efficiency gains to be had in cyber services. And at a high level, I'll boil it down to a couple of things for you. Leveraging tools to do mass deployment activity. So M365 hardening and having a system in place to push policies across all your clients instead of trying to manually do it. Most people don't even do it because it's too manually intensive. And leveraging vendors to deliver services, whether that's suspicious email checks, whether it is like an MDR solution, whether it's whatever else. We don't have the manpower or the expertise to deliver a lot of these services. Even if we've got the expertise, it's too costly. So the more that we can look at these efficiencies and leverage others rather than trying to do everything ourselves can really dramatically improve our profitability, but also improve the outcomes that are being delivered as well. And lets us focus on the right things. And as we think about efficiencies, just a really quick breakdown, we need to start thinking about how our organizations are structured. Most of us are seeing cybersecurity and we just dump it in our normal help desk practices. The help desk is completely the wrong people to be dealing with a cyber incident or cyber practices. They're rushing, all they do, and they do it very well, go from one tick to another, solve a problem, move on. They're incident focused. A cyber incident is more complex. It isn't just something's happened, let's roll it back and we're good to go. It's not an operational problem. If the client is needing to recover and needing forensics, that can break the whole process and that can impact their insurance claims, let alone the fact that we might roll back and the attacker can just go again because we haven't actually removed what's happened. the help desk solve problems by turning MFA off for a client and then never turning it back on again. We need to separate that out. The way that we roll out and manage tools needs to be different, and the way that we provide advice. So when you start to think about it, and I can't go into all the details, we need to think about our business being structured differently. We're transforming how we set up our business as an MSP isn't how we're going to run into the future, because we're delivering different services. We're engaging clients in a different way. The other quick thing to go over is just thinking about not just how we're structuring it by people and department, but by functions. We need to start thinking about adding advisory, governance, risk, and compliance. Whether that's a service that we deliver into our clients or not, it's irrelevant. We need to do it for ourselves. Again, going back to what I said, we're terrible at this. We don't have governance. We're not managing risk in our own business. We have no compliance measures. We don't protect ourselves. We might sell an MDR to someone else, but we don't have it for ourselves half the time. So we need to start eating our own dog food. We need to start thinking about elevating ourselves to the right level.
Just to, sorry, James, you go.
I'll wrap this part up, Reece, and then I'll get you to dive in. The final thing, just to reiterate, we default to increasing our delivery capacity by building it. For a lot of areas, that is not the right solution. The way that we have gone about cybersecurity in the past was we'll build our own SOC. That was stupid because it cost us millions of dollars to do, and it didn't result in anything. We could have acquired a cybersecurity partner and been way further than what we are, or we can partner with specialists and vendors to deliver those services. We need to change that mindset of we need to do everything. And that fits into our structure, that fits into our operational practices. So what's on your mind, Reece?
Mate, just wanted to highlight as well, you mentioned there, which is a really good point, about us eating our own dog food and making sure that, we're security by default within our own organizations. And, a couple of the things that SMB 1001 requires, from a process or plan perspective, is that, organizations have a documented incident response plan. They have documented processes around, preventing invoice fraud, for example. And too often I've asked audiences in talks, who, from a partner perspective, has these for their own organizations today, and it's always not enough hands that go up.
Yeah, it's common. I come back to, as we're talking about uplifting clients to our solutions, MFA is a good example. When I'm at events and stuff, I ask how many have MFA on all your own stuff. It might be 50, 60% of the room. Then I ask them, well, what about your client's adoption of it? I've been in rooms where it's been as little as like 5% of the room has put their hand up. And this is like really basic stuff. And this is that challenge of being able to uplift our approach. There's a mindset thing that we've spoken about, and then there's a pragmatic way of how we're actually going to do it. And so I'm going to break this down of how we're going to monetize it. We need to start by understanding, again, cybersecurity is only one thing that we need to deliver to our client. Technology is only a sliver of our client's business. So we need to really understand where everything fits. And what we're finding, again, is we're getting hyper focused on just cybersecurity. We're not actually meeting the needs of the clients. Clients need to grow revenue. They need to increase profit. We're only talking about one part, and we've established that we're not necessarily talking about the right things. But when you step back and start to view from a bigger picture, it becomes easier to start providing advice to your clients. And generally, when we're providing the right advice for our clients, we're not even selling. Clients will be able to help clients identify their challenges and opportunities, and they'll select in, and they'll keep spending more and more and more money. And we don't do that because we don't have enough conversations with our clients, and we don't have a big perspective. And while I talk about this, I want you to just look at the predicted market demands for 2025. We're already quite a significant part of the year. I'm already seeing this happening. This is where all the winners are making lots of money from the partner side. And they're doing that with security by default. Yes, they might still be doing some security uplift, but 7 of the 8 items are not cybersecurity. I want to reiterate that clients aren't that interested in cybersecurity. The ones that are doing cybersecurity uplifts are usually the regulated industries playing catch up. In our region, there aren't that many regulated industries yet that require cyber postures. There are like APRA, or there's some other ones that require this kind of stuff, but there's drops in the ocean of the mass market. That's why we've been struggling. You always hear everyone's going, make some frameworks, government mandated, and put regulations in so we can sell this. We shouldn't be relying on that to happen. We need to position ourselves better. Again, security by default. Windows 11's coming. Don't just sell a replacement workstation. Sell it with an uplift to Intune so they can save costs on deployment in the future. Implement endpoint security and stuff around it so they've got a modern, secure desktop. They're a laptop. They're roaming everywhere. Bring up those challenges. That's how we sell cybersecurity, not by a bolt-on approach. We need to understand where we fit into our clients as well. The business models are changing. I talk a lot about this technology solutions partner. A traditional MSP is an end user support company that delivers some infrastructure management. As you've seen already, we're talking about a lot of advisory. We're talking about the broadening of what clients need from a technology perspective. They're needing us to evolve. And the modern business models need to reflect that as well. What we've done in the past is not what's going to create success for the future. People are seeing that in the margins reducing for the traditional managed services. It's becoming harder to get new clients. Clients are pushing back on the value, quite rightly. It can be automated. There's more offshoring. It's commoditizing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need to start doing stuff differently. And that starts with your business model and the operating model after it. And as we do that, we need to start extending the way that we see how we make our money and monetize. Traditionally, we've made all our money by doing some support services, doing some projects, reselling some licenses. We've probably given away advice for free. We probably do solution designs for free. We're not really focused on enablement and adoption. But all of these sort of 6 value streams are ways to make money in different areas. And this is how we can start to make money in cybersecurity. You start providing advisory, whether it's your partner, whether you do some solution designs, whether you're doing procurement. You've got more ways to make money, especially when you're doing a security by default approach. And when you start breaking this down, now I'm going really fast through this, but there's a lot of nuance and detail. I couldn't do it justice no matter how I did it. What we really need to elevate is to advisory led. No matter what we do, the client needs us to understand their business and then help them understand their risks, identify opportunities and challenges, and then proactively bring them solutions. We need to reshape our value chain to be advisory is what makes our money. And then everything else, no matter how we price and package it, is just an extra on top. This is creating a solutions portfolio rather than a rigid stack. We can't force clients into a rigid stack because their business is evolving and changing. Technology has changed. The value that we need to provide is changing. And that can only be delivered through advisory. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, if you can't do it, you don't have the capabilities, it's not your core focus and strategy, partner. There's specialist partners for cybersecurity, specialist partners for other things. There's the vendors that are providing more commoditized things that we can leverage. We don't need to build it all ourselves. We need to think about this differently. We have more options. And when we do start to partner, we need to understand there's going to be overlap, there's going to be friction at first. The ecosystem's evolving. We need to set what we do and what our guidelines and guardrails are for the partners that we will work with. And then we can monetize it or not and decide on that and have it clear. And then we've got rules for engagement. Then we can leverage these people to solve problems for our clients. Often we don't need to monetize a lot of as much as we think we do. The real value for us is that advisory piece. The more experts we bring in to solve challenges for clients, the more valuable we become, the more money we can make from advisory itself. We don't need to get caught up in trying to deliver commoditized solutions to survive. We can flourish in much different ways, but we need to understand where we play, understand, and then create clarity in a partnership with whoever we're bringing in. And so as we start to wind down, I know it's been a whole bunch of information I've been throwing at you. And this is the problem that we've been having for a long time. So I want to get you to start breaking this down. If you're looking for a starting point of how you're going to actually get unstuck and start to build monetization with your clients, our micro, small, medium-sized companies, which we're mostly in, embrace S&B 1001 as your standard that you sell to clients. It's a certifiable standard. It's leveraged by insurance. We give them something tangible. And it's fairly easy for us to deliver. As we start to mature, that's when we start leveraging ISO and in leveraging the policy and governance side in the cyberspace. We should be thinking about security by default. Force baseline standards. Don't make it a negotiable. MFA is an example. Most people have not rolled out MFA to their clients because they've got some objection or someone had a whinge that it makes it too hard. Turn it on. It's enforced by Microsoft. Blame Microsoft that you can't turn it off and be done with it. There's some things there that it's negligent for us to not do, and just make it that non-negotiable. If you actually go back to your client and say, no, we only do this if you're below this and you're making it reasonable, it all of a sudden makes that client very unreasonable and makes sense that you don't take on their risk for them. But most importantly in all of this, outside of the monetization, is you need to educate your clients. We need to have conversations with our clients. We need to identify their risks, meet them at a business level. They don't understand this space. They're just getting the pressure from their insurance companies, their accountants, government, supply chains. They know they need to do something, but they don't know what to do. They're relying on us to tell them and help them, but we're missing the mark. So it's a lot, Reece. What are you thinking?
I want to pose a question to James. I think we've got enough time, but and this may tie into the fact that perhaps we're not as advisory led as an industry as perhaps we should be. But we often find partners are sometimes or they are reluctant to go to their customers to say, hey, we need to implement this security solution. And we need to charge you X amount, because I don't want to upset their customers. I don't want to, be viewed as they're just looking for money. But interestingly, when we run through, certain campaigns with partners, particularly opt-out campaigns, where, we'll work with a partner to say, hey, you need this solution. This is the threat landscape. This is the solution. This is the risk that we're trying to mitigate. This is the outcome that it will provide. This is the additional cost. Let us know if you don't want that solution. Often we see an 80+% sit rate on that. And so it actually seems that customers do want their partners to tell them what they need to be doing. And more often than not, they're happy to pay that little bit of extra for it. Is there Is there a mindset shift then that we need as an industry around how we advise customers on what solutions they need?
100%. And we've got so much limiting beliefs. Too many of us assume what the client can spend, and too many people think a question is an objection. Um, it, it comes down to the clients want our advice. They don't just want it; they need it. They're running a business. They're pulled left, right, and center. They need us to come and tell them the solutions that they should be doing and why. And if we meet them in their language, exactly what you said, the majority of our clients will take up our advice. They might not be able to do it right now, but it'll be next month, it'll be 6 months' time, and it might even be, oh, we can do that next year when we've got the budget. But that's okay. We've then got confirmation. That opt-out approach is what we need to take as a mindset. We need to have those standards and say, this is what you need to operate. It's not a negotiable. It's a negotiable how we're going to get there. But they're looking for us to be the experts. If they're the expert, why do they have us in? It doesn't mean we need to come and be super arrogant and no one's selling stuff generally that clients don't need. That's not the problem. The opposite problem is people get caught up in their own head that, oh, that seems expensive. Well, if you think it's expensive, the client probably does too. You turn a big deal in. I hear it all the time with low level tools. It's like $2 a user, and it might be $50 extra a month. And you're going, oh, the client won't buy that. Well, they won't buy it if you make a big deal. If you treat it like a low level thing like it is, so will the client. You've got to act the way that you want to be treated. And that's the biggest mindset shift that the industry needs to take. So let's wrap up. People are probably getting more than sick of hearing my voice. I'm getting sick of hearing my own voice. We covered heaps today. I couldn't do everything justice. It would be multiple webinars to go into each individual topic and break it down. But hopefully I've given you enough awareness and enough pragmatic steps to get you unstuck. So you need to go set some goals. You need to identify the gaps to those goals, create a plan. Not enough people actually plan out what they're doing, so they get distracted. They don't know what they're trying to achieve. They lose track. Share the plan with your team. Work the plan, actually focus on it, and keep reviewing and iterating it. The reason why we keep getting stuck is we keep listening to all these different talking heads, keep getting information. We're allowing analysis paralysis to get in the way. If you step back, you understand your clients, you understand your business, decisions become very easy to make, very easy to focus on. Yeah, sure, you're going to have to adapt and deviate from different plans, but with a plan, you can stay focused. So out of everything today, I want you to identify where you're trying to get to, whether it's the operational stuff that I said, whether it's the way that you package and elevate yourself to an advisory, whether it's going and interacting with your clients and re-engaging in different ways. It'll be different for everyone, and that's okay. You just need to set out a plan and then go work it. That's all I want from everyone. And friendly reminder as we wrap this up, just go and talk to your clients. I'm sick of saying it. Owners and account managers don't talk to their clients. And that's the number one problem in all of this. Your clients will engage with you if you go and proactively engage with them. You'll understand more. You'll be able to position things better. You'll be able to give them solutions. I keep talking to partners, I keep telling them this, they go and do it, and then they're surprised that all of a sudden they've got revenue growth because, oh, we went and talked to the clients and all of a sudden they bought stuff. Who would have thought? But you need to break out of this. You need to go talk to your clients, because if you don't, I can guarantee someone else will, and they'll take their business away, because it's already happening and it's going faster and faster and faster. Clients need our advice. They want our engagement. If we don't provide it, someone else will. So hopefully this has helped everyone, and hopefully we can see more success over the next few months.
James, this has been incredibly helpful, mate. I think partners that have joined us live and those that will watch on demand will learn a ton from this. There's a bunch of questions that we didn't quite get to answer, I think, just given the time. James, where can partners find you if they want to reach out and engage in any way?
Just if you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn, which I think most of the industry is by this point, and you haven't gotten sick of seeing my face, just connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a line. I'm also on YouTube. Um, Plenty of resources out there to try and help partners elevate. So just just lean in and do something about it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We've yeah, Cody's dropped your LinkedIn link in there, mate, for everyone. So expect a few connects coming through over the next few minutes. But really appreciate it, guys. If you do have any additional questions for James, you know where to find him. If you need anything from Huntress perspective, if you have any questions about what we're doing with partners from a from a people process perspective in terms of advice and that sort of stuff, please reach out as well. But hopefully we can, as an industry, begin to move to a security by default TSP and move away from this security bolt-on MSP model that we're trying to desperately align to the market, and it's not quite there. So
The last thing I'll wrap up on, because everyone always feels like they hear these things and they need to do everything all at once.
yeah.
This is a journey. Transformation takes time. It'll take you 3 to 5 years to really transform your business. And you do that by having plans and taking steps at a time. If you don't have the energy to transform and go into the future, this is the best time to exit.
Mm.
So there are way more buyers and sellers. There's so much risk in not just from the cyber side, but client churn. Take the opportunity, cash out while you're on top instead of trying to gamble away the future and not actually progress, which is what unfortunately most partners are doing.
James, I want to cheekily squeeze in one question for the team. If there was one thing that partners can go and do today or tomorrow to start this journey, what would it be?
Talk to your clients, understand what they need. It's as simple as that. And then start adapting it, taking the information from people like myself and others in the industry that are like providing advice around what the future is, work out where you're heading, and then just prioritize one step and do that. It's as simple as that.
That's awesome, James. So pick up the phone, talk to your clients, speak in their language, and that's a hell of a good start.
Yep. That's all we need to do.
All we need to do. All right, as easy as that. All right, then, guys. Appreciate everyone's time. James, really appreciate the discussion, mate, as always, and we'll catch you guys soon. See ya.
Thanks for having me. See ya.